There comes a moment in every intelligent person's psychological journey where the truth becomes too clear to bear. After months or years of shadow work, of stripping away illusions, of descending into the unconscious, you find yourself hollow. Not because you are weak, but because you are finally awake. Welcome to the psychological void Carl Jung warned us about, the dark interval between false self and true self. A space so raw, so unfiltered that motivation dies. Not temporarily, not out of laziness, but because the very mechanism that once drove you, egoic ambition, validation, fantasy, has been dismantled by your own insight. Most people misunderstand the shadow. They think it's a place where shame lives, where sin festers, where anger, lust, envy and fear swirl in the corners of your psyche like dangerous animals waiting to be caged. That's a child's understanding. A surface-level myth. The truth is far more uncomfortable and far more powerful. The shadow isn't a trash heap. It's a reactor core. It doesn't just house your bad traits. It holds the parts of you that are too intense, too raw, too honest, too free to be accepted by the polite masks of society or even by your own conscious mind. It is your unclaimed genius, your feral hunger, your hidden magnetism. It is the part of you that wants to rule, to be worshipped, to transcend, to devour, to create something so magnificent it silences every voice that once doubted you. And yes, it is the part of you that wants to be loved so deeply, so fully, that the emptiness you've hidden since childhood finally dissolves. Look closely. What you call discipline might actually be compulsion. What you call ambition might be self-loathing in disguise. What you call confidence might be armor forged in abandonment. And what you call your identity, it might just be a refined coping mechanism with good branding. Because here's the brutal truth. You think you're building success, but you're just decorating your prison. You work harder, seduce better, become more efficient, not because you're driven by some clear inner calling, but because you're terrified that if you ever stop performing, the emptiness will swallow you whole. That is the shadow. And most people don't confront it. They outsource it. They let it run their lives from the basement. It shows up as the insatiable hunger to be validated, the relationships that feel like obsession, not love. The need to dominate conversations because silence feels like invisibility. The charm you weaponize to avoid ever feeling small again. You think you're in control, but you're not. You're negotiating with ghosts. Then, one day, if you're brave, if you're tired of the mask, you decide to stop running. You descend into the abyss. And what you find is not a monster. It's a child, a memory, a moment of fracture you never integrated. It's the moment you were overlooked, abandoned, humiliated. The moment you decided, I will become someone they have to notice. And you did. You became impressive, beautiful, powerful. But it was never you. It was a role, a performance, a mirror polished so clean even you believed the reflection. And now, it's cracking. You begin peeling away your desires like dead skin. The ambition? A scream to finally be enough. The sexual magnetism? A shield to avoid vulnerability. The achievements? Trophies for a crowd that never came. The stoicism? Just a wall built so no one sees how lonely it really is behind your eyes. You begin to see that every strength you've developed was never chosen. It was constructed in response to pain. That realization is shattering. Not because it breaks you, but because it strips away everything that isn't truly yours. You stand there, exposed, raw, no longer hiding behind your curated self. And now you face the most terrifying question of all. If I'm not the person I built, then who the hell am I? This is not burnout, not fatigue. This is a full-blown identity collapse. A dark night of the soul where all your tools, all your strategies, all your hacks stop working. Motivational quotes feel empty. Vision boards look like delusions. You can't discipline your way out of this because the thing that powered your discipline, your pain, is now exposed and disarmed. And here's the secret. Most people don't survive this stage. They go back. They reassemble the mask. They rebrand, repost, reinvent, and tell themselves that was just a phase. But if you stay, if you refuse to reattach to illusion, something else happens. In that empty space you begin to hear a voice, not the voice of fear, not the voice of shame, but a quiet, ancient voice that says, now that all that isn't you has fallen away, it's time to remember who you were before the world taught you to forget. This is your unconditioned self, not the one who was rewarded, not the one who was punished, but the one who was always there, buried beneath survival strategies. And here is where the shadow transforms. You realize it's not darkness. It's power in exile. It's the fire you locked in the basement because you thought it was dangerous. But now it's yours. You can hold it, shape it, wield it. Your rage becomes boundary. Your lust becomes vitality. Your ambition becomes vision. Your chaos becomes creativity. You are no longer possessed by the shadow. You have become its master. Most people walk through life amputated, performing strengths while hiding their source. You've seen the engine room. You've walked through the furnace. You've burned everything false. And now, when people meet you, they feel something they can't explain. You are calm, but not passive. You are kind, but not weak. You are confident, but not loud. You are whole, but not tame. This is the shadow, integrated. This is power, not performed, but embodied. And it's terrifying, because when others look at you, they don't just see a person. They see a mirror, showing them everything they're still running from. And that's why the integrated soul isn't just powerful. It's sacred and feared and free. This is where the intelligent, self-aware suffer the most. Not because they are broken, but because they are too lucid to keep lying to themselves. The smarter you are, the faster you dismantle the illusion. And the deeper your emotional intelligence, the harder it becomes to pretend that illusion was ever enough. You see through the masks, yours and everyone else's. You see the machinery behind your ambition, your charm, your grind. And suddenly, what once felt meaningful becomes hollow. Not because it wasn't impressive, but because it wasn't real. And now you're left with something terrifying: space. Most people believe awakening will feel like bliss, like enlightenment, like arrival. But that's a lie sold by people who've never actually been through it. Real awakening feels like burning down your own temple with all your beliefs still inside. It feels like being stripped naked in front of the universe. Nothing left to hide behind, no mask left to wear. And what do you find in that place? Nothing. Just silence, stillness, and a question you can't yet answer. If I'm no longer who I was pretending to be, who am I now? That's not a breakdown, that's a threshold. But only a few walk through it. Most run. They run back to noise, stimulation, goals, productivity, anything to avoid that stillness. But not you. You're still here, still reading, still watching the fire burn. And that makes you dangerous, because the person who can sit in emptiness, in the ashes of their false self, without flinching, is the person who will rebuild from truth, not fear. Smart minds crave coherence. They need things to make sense. They seek truth like a religion. But truth, once stripped of its decorations, is not always beautiful. It's surgical. It cuts through sentiment. It exposes the wound beneath the strategy. It tells you brutally that your highest achievements may have come from your deepest pain. That you didn't want to be great, you wanted to be loved. That you weren't building a legacy, you were just building a cage you could be proud of. That your work ethic wasn't discipline, it was emotional anesthesia. And when you see that, really see it, something collapses. The engine that used to drive you sputters and dies. And now the high IQ mind faces something it hates: chaos. An identity unanchored. A self without a story. A brilliant machine with no operating system. This is why so many brilliant minds become paralyzed after shadow work. Not because they are weak, but because they mistake the death of the false self for depression. It's not sadness. It's the disorientation of rebirth. Before shadow work, your energy came from proving people wrong, escaping shame, fixing your inner child through external validation, controlling your environment so you never had to feel vulnerable. That energy was strong but unstable. It made you fast but brittle, respected but exhausted, feared but never truly seen. And when shadow work burns that fuel away, you're left with a terrifying silence. There is no urgency to prove, no hunger to chase validation, no identity to cling to. Just a quiet you, still forming, still flickering in the dark, but finally yours. And the moment you accept that, you start to rise, not with noise, but with density, not with excitement, but with depth, not from ego, but from clarity. This is the part no one talks about. After the fire, after the collapse, after the long silence, something ancient begins to stir inside you. Not a new mask, not a new hustle, not a new image, but a presence, a pulse, a truth that doesn't need validation. You begin to act not to compensate but to create. You speak not to be heard but to transmit something real. You build not a prison of achievements but a cathedral of sovereignty. This is the emergence of the true self, not as an idea but as a force. And here's the paradox. Once you no longer need power to feel worthy, you become the most powerful version of yourself. If you're here, in this emptiness, confused, disillusioned, still smoldering from the fire, good. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are becoming. What you feel is the stretch of your soul reclaiming territory it abandoned long ago. It's the grief of saying goodbye to the performance. It's the labor of giving birth to your original self. So don't run. Sit in the ashes and listen. Because from that stillness, a new voice will rise. Not one built from pain. Not one built from applause. But one that has always been there, waiting behind the noise. And when it speaks, the world will no longer see someone successful. It will see someone sovereign. And that can never be stopped. This is the crucible, the night that has no stars, the silence that swallows all illusion. Here, in the aftermath of shadow work, after the masks have melted and the ambition has evaporated, most people break. They recoil. They sprint back to performance, to self-help mantras, to productivity hacks and external validation, to anything that feels like something in the face of this unbearable nothing. Because the post-shadow void is not poetic, it is visceral. A soul-level disorientation where all the engines have stopped, and all that remains is the hum of being without purpose. And that emptiness terrifies them. This is the fork in the road. To your left, nihilism. The belief that nothing matters. That all effort is futile. That all meaning is delusion. It's seductive, especially to the hyper-aware, the ones who've dissected the game and found it rigged. To your right, rebirth. Not the reclaiming of old identity, but the slow emergence of something untouched by the noise. A truth-born self that does not need a reason to exist. It just does. And to get there, you must do what almost no one does. You must stay in the nothingness. No fixing, no escaping, no narrating your way out. You must let the silence reshape you. If you sit in the ruins long enough, something miraculous happens. You stop acting. You stop reaching for meaning like a drowning man grasps at driftwood. You stop trying to matter. And in that stillness, you begin to feel something strange and unfamiliar. Peace. Not the peace of success, not the peace of winning, but the peace of alignment. The peace of being no one, but being fully. And from that soil, something new grows. Not a strategy, not a brand, but an energy. A frequency that doesn't rise from fear nor from desperation. It rises from essence. You don't create it. You remember it. And now for the first time you act not to be seen, but because you are clear. This is the birth of true will. Carl Jung never told you to destroy your shadow. He didn't tell you to conquer it, cage it, or transcend it. He told you to invite it home. Your rage, your jealousy, your erotic hunger, your obsession with recognition. They were never moral failures. They were exiled soldiers, banished from your conscious kingdom because they didn't fit the story you were taught to tell. And those exiles, they carried your fire. To reject them is to let them rule you from the dark. To embrace them is to become whole. As Jung wrote, There is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But you didn't avoid it. You faced it. And now you're in the silence after the storm. So if you feel unmotivated, uninspired, blank, good. You're not broken. You're not depressed. You're just standing in the ruins of your old self, waiting for something real to emerge. And that wait is sacred. Because the next you won't be made of wounds. It won't be a compensation for pain. It won't be designed to impress anyone. It will be you, the first version. The one that doesn't need to prove. The one that doesn't beg for worth. The one that doesn't chase meaning because it is meaning. When that moment comes, when the true self rises, you won't move because you should. You won't hustle for applause or scramble for identity. You'll move from a place deeper than desire. You'll act from alignment, not ambition. You'll build not out of lack, but out of overflow. And when people see you then, they won't know what to make of you. Because you will no longer be playing the game. You will be something else entirely, still, clear, whole, undeniably real. And from that place, you won't need motivation. You'll have meaning. And meaning moves mountains.